Thank you, said Sergeant Kinane. Now, Cyril, you're not in any trouble, but I need you to be honest with me, all right?
Yes, sir, I said, anxious to please. But can I just ask you, do you think Julian is dead?
No, I don't,
he said.
It's early days and we haven't even received details of where the kidnappers want the money to be sent. They'll hold on to him for a bit yet. He's their collateral, you see. There's no reason for them to harm him.
I exhaled in relief. The idea of Julian being murdered made me dizzy with terror. I wasn't sure that I'd be able to survive such an outcome.
Now, Cyril, tell me why you went into town this afternoon.
It was Julian's idea, I said. I thought we were going in to look at the shops or maybe go to the pictures, but really he'd arranged to meet Bridget and wanted me with him because she was bringing another girl to make up a foursome. I would have been happy to have gone to Stephen's Green to feed the ducks.
Oh, for God's sake, said Charles,
rolling his eyes. The sergeant ignored him as he wrote all this down.
And how did he know Miss Simpson?
He asked me. Who's Miss Simpson?
Bridget.
Oh.
Where did they meet?
In the tea room at Leinster House, I said. We went there on a school trip a couple of weeks ago.
And they hit it off, did they?
I shrugged. I wasn't sure how to answer this.
Did this Bridget creature ever come to your school?
He asked.
Did she stay with Julian in your room at all?
She did not, I said, blushing. I didn't even know that Julian had stayed in touch with her. They must have been writing to each other, but he never said a word about it to me.
I'll know about that soon enough, said Sergeant Kinane. I have an officer over there now doing a search. He should be back any time now.
I opened my eyes wide in panic and felt my stomach drop. A search of what? I asked.
Of your room. In case there's anything there that might help us find Julian.
Will you just be searching his side of the room? I asked.
No, he said, frowning. Sure, we don't know which side is his, do we? And things can get mixed up anyway. Sorry, Cyril, but we'll be looking through your things too. You've nothing to hide, have you?
I glanced around for a bin. There was a possibility that I might be sick.
Are you all right? He asked me. You're going a bit pale.
I'm grand, I said, my voice catching in my throat. I'm just worried about him, that's all. He's my best friend.
Oh, Jesus, Cyril, said Charles, looking a bit disgusted.
Would you stop talking like that? It makes you sound like a right Nancy boy.
Have you ever seen Julian associating with strangers? The sergeant asked me, ignoring my adoptive father's latest interruption.
No, I said.
Any strange men on the school grounds at all?
Only the priests.
You mustn't lie to me, Cyril,
he said, pointing a finger at me.
Because I'll know if you're lying.
If that's true, then you must know that I'm not, I said. I haven't seen anyone.
All right. The thing is, we've reason to believe that the men who seized Julian have been planning this for some time. His father received death threats from the IRA after the piece he wrote in the Sunday Press a couple of months ago, saying that the supreme musical composition of all time is God Save the Queen.
I have something to admit, said Charles, leaning forward, a serious expression on his face now.
What's that, Mr. Avery?
Asked Sergeant Kinane, turning to him doubtfully. It's not something I've ever told anyone before, but in this room, which is a sort of confessional, I suppose, I feel I can say it, particularly since I'm among friends. The thing is, I think the Queen is a very attractive woman. I mean, she's 33 now, I think, and that's about 5 years older than I usually go for, but I would make an exception in her case. There's something quite frisky about her, don't you think? I'd say she takes a bit of warming up, but once you've loosened the corsets...
Mr. Avery, said the sergeant, this is a serious business. Could I ask you to stop talking, please?
Oh, be my guest, said Charles, sitting back again and folding his arms. Cyril, answer the man before he has us all locked up. But he hasn't asked me anything, I protested. I don't care. Answer him. I turned to the sergeant with a bewildered look on my face.
Cyril, Has anyone ever approached you to ask you where you and Julian might be discovered at any particular time?
No, Sergeant, I said.
And who would have known that you were going to the Palace Bar today?
I didn't even know myself until we got there.
But Julian knew.
Yes, he had it planned. Maybe he tipped off the IRA, suggested Charles.
Why would he do that?
Asked Sergeant Kinane, staring at him as if he were a complete moron. You're right. Makes no sense. Move on.
And Miss Simpson, Bridget, continued the sergeant. She must have known too.
I presume so.
What about her friend, Miss Muffet?
Miss Muffet? I said, staring at him. Mary Margaret's surname is Muffet?
Yes.
I tried not to laugh. It didn't seem like her standard at all.
I don't know what she knew or didn't know, I said. There was a tap on the door. A young Garda looked inside, and the sergeant excused himself, leaving Charles and I alone together. So, he said, breaking the silence after a minute or two.
How have you been, anyway?
Grant, I said.
And school is going well?
Yes. Work is hell. I'm in there all day and half the night. Did I tell you that I'm getting married again?
No, I said, surprised. When? Next week, actually. To a very nice girl named Angela Manningtree. A chest out to here and legs that go all the way down to the floor. 26 years old. Works in the civil service, Department of Education. Or does until the wedding, anyway. Quite intelligent, too, which actually I rather like in a woman. You must meet her sometime. Will I be invited to the wedding? I asked. Oh, no, he said, shaking his head. It will be quite a small affair, just friends and family. But I'll make sure to introduce you to her the next time you're on school holidays. I'm not quite sure what Angela's actual relationship to you would be. She won't be your stepmother or your adoptive stepmother. It's a mystery. I might consult someone in the legal profession for the actual term. Max is the best lawyer I know, but I suppose now wouldn't be the right time. You have a cut above your eye, by the way. Were you aware of that? I was, yes. Did one of the kidnappers do that to you as you battled valiantly to save your friend from their clutches? No, I said. An old woman hit me with her umbrella. Of course she did. The door opened again, and Sergeant Kinane came back in, flicking through some pages that he held in his hand. Cyril, he said, did Julian have a paramour apart from this Bridget girl? A what? I asked. A girlfriend. No, I said. Not that I know of, anyway. The thing is, we've discovered a number of letters in your room addressed to Julian. They're quite suggestive in their way. Erotic, you know. Dirty stuff. About the way this girl feels about him and the things she wants to do to him. But the problem is, they're unsigned. I stared at the table and tried to think of anything that would stop my face from bursting into flames. I don't know anything about them, I said. I'll tell you what, he said. If Mrs. Kinane had half the imagination that this girl has, I'd be taking early retirement. Both he and Charles burst out laughing at this, and I looked down at my shoes, praying that the interview would come to an end soon. Anyway, this all looks harmless enough, he said. It probably has nothing to do with the kidnapping. Still, we have to follow up every lead. He turned the pages and read some more, his lips moving as his eyes flickered across the words, and finally he frowned when he reached something he didn't understand. What does that mean, do you think? He asked, showing the letter to Charles and pointing something out, and my adoptive father whispered something in his ear. Christ alive, said the sergeant, shaking his head in disbelief. I never heard of such a thing. What type of woman would do something like that? The very best type, said Charles. Mrs. Kinane certainly wouldn't, but then she's from Roscommon. Well, whoever this lassie is, she wants to do it to Julian Woodbead. "Ah, to be young again," said Charles with a sigh. "Can I go now?" I asked. "You can," said Sergeant Kinane, gathering his papers.
"I'll be back in touch if I've any more questions. And don't worry, young Cyril. We're doing everything we can to find your friend."
I left the room and looked up and down the hallway for Bridget and Mary Margaret, but they were nowhere to be seen, and so I waited for Charles, who seemed surprised to see me still standing there, and we walked out onto Pierce Street together. "Well, goodbye," he said, shaking my hand. "Until next time." "Have a good wedding," I told him. "Very kind of you. And I hope they find your friend. I feel for Max, really I do. If I'd had a son and the IRA had kidnapped him, I'd be desperately upset. Goodbye for now, Cyril." "Goodbye, Charles." And with that I turned right and made my way across the road and over O'Connell Street Bridge back in the direction of Belvedere College, where, I felt certain, further punishment would await me.